Hey everyone, welcome to Limitless Radiocast, episode 72. Hanging out with the amazing Josh McKinney. You might know him from I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu podcast show. You guys need to go out there and check him out, listen to his show, support him, follow him on social media. We get into his background, some just great BJJ conversation, and much more. Chad and I also want to thank you guys for all the support, for you guys listening each and every week, for coming back. This week, Chad and I hit 10,000 downloads since we started the show. We couldn't have done it without you guys listening each and every week, coming back. We appreciate you greatly. You know, one thing that we set out to do in this podcast was to encourage people to know that they belong and that all of you out there listening right now are part of our show. You're part of our family. We appreciate you guys greatly. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. The show is being brought to you by Hoist IV Level Hydration. Everyone, you guys got to check this out. They're an amazing product. Chad and I drink this product, and I will tell you what, it has by far beat every sports drink I personally have ever tried. 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. It's half the sugar of traditional. No high fructose corn syrup. No artificial preservatives, sweeteners, or dyes. It's BPA-free, kosher, made in the United States of America, and there are 6 delicious flavors. This stuff is amazing. You guys need to go out there and check it out. Limitless 10 at checkout for a discount. Check them out. Also, we want to thank our other sponsors, and we ask all you guys to go out there and thank them as well. Magic City Brewing Company, Red Tail Tattoo Company, Candry Law, M&H Beans, Coffee Supply, Gateway Dental Care, Thomas Webb of D. Hoff Realtors. Also, you guys need some fight gear, some gis, some stuff to get out there and get you on the mat? Well, you need to go out there and check out Lanky Fight Gear, Limitless 20 at checkout for a discount. Also, go out and check out the amazing products from Lashley Nutrition. They're amazing products. They can get you protein, creatine, anything you need. Plant-based, great products, great people. Check them out. Also, want to improve your jiu-jitsu? Go out and check out BJJ Foundation, Limitless 25 at checkout for a discount for all kinds of instructionals, DVDs, and great information from the amazing James Klingerman. Check them out. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hope all of you guys are doing well out there. So, Chad and I are hanging out with Josh McKinney. He's a BJJ black belt under Kyle Watson. He is the owner and lead instructor of HeadnodHQ in Granite City, Illinois. Josh also runs a great YouTube channel called Josh McKinney BJJ, and also has an amazing podcast called I Suck at Jiu-Jitsushow. So everyone out there, you know, go out there and check it out. It is on all major podcast platforms. I suck tonight. I'm very tired, and clearly I can't read well. So Josh, thanks so much for hanging out with us. This is my intro on every show, it seems like, anymore. I can't get it right. But anyway, Josh, thanks so much for coming, man, or hanging out with us.
Dude, the intro is a slow build. You know, you start the ball rolling. Eventually it gets rolling. I get it. I get it. But thank you guys for having me.
For sure, man.
No problem.
For sure. Anytime, as I was saying, you know, before, that we have an opportunity to talk to someone that's in our community, the jiu-jitsu community, that can educate me for sure. Hear, you know, black belts like yourself and Chad talk about, you know, what, you know, BJJ in general, past, present, and what's going on in the community. I think it's great for not only our listeners, your listeners as well. Like, that's what we have to do. We have to educate.
Absolutely.
People, you know,
before we get too deep, I want to officially congratulate Terry on getting his blue belt yesterday.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did it come with any superpowers?
It came with everyone saying, "Hey, you want to roll Monday?" I was like, yeah, sure. Like guys that I've never rolled with before. And they're like, "Hey, we're going to roll, right? Monday night." I was like, yeah, I get it. There's a target on my back now. Okay.
There should be. It's just like a welcome to the new belt, you know?
Yeah.
Sure. But in a good way. Like, hey, we're going to beat you up, but it's fun.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Exactly. I'm excited for it. You know, for me, I'm 45 years old. So I'm still like, obviously the belt is a huge achievement for me because it's something that I wanted to do. And I've never, I don't do achievements. Like I don't hang things up. I don't do anything. And it's kind of funny because in the background here, I actually have the certificate hanging on the wall, which can't be seen. And then my white belt's hanging back there as well. And my wife was like, "Wow, you're actually going to hang up something in your life for the first time ever." And I was like, "Yep, pretty much." I mean, I've won a ton of stuff. I have a ton of medals for things. I ran for 10 years, won races. I have stuff from when I was in high school, trophies, and all throughout championship jackets of sports that I played. Never wore any of them, never hung any of them up. Don't even know where any of them are. It's just my thing. It's just like, I don't care. For the first time, I was like, but people in our community have to understand that. Like, I'm sure they do. Like, Josh, you understand it. And Chad, you understand it. Like, what you go through to get to another stage where you feel like, I'm getting this. I want to learn so much more. And I'm not looking at it like, oh, I'm a blue belt, like I'm done. No, like for me, it's all about getting better all the time. I don't care about the belt so much. But what's your take on it, Josh? Because I just took like a ton of time in the beginning because Chad put me on the spot. So.
I totally agree. I hear so many. I don't know if it's just my students that say this because I'm a really mean grader when it comes to belts. But I see so many people, they'll post about their blue belt and they'll say, this was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I really think that it's like that for most belts, for most people. Mm-hmm. And it's because you don't get your blue belt, you become a blue belt, and you have to slowly build up, and you really do become a different person by getting beat up. I mean, we dress it up all kinds of other ways, but really that's all we're doing is we get beat up, we learn from it, we get beat up, we learn from it. And then all of a sudden, hopefully we're a different person and our coach notices and we get that next belt.
For sure. Yeah. And that's, I would say 100%, like anyone out there that's listening, if you're a white belt, like don't quit, man. Like just keep pushing yourself and understanding that every pun before you, and we've said it, I know Josh, you've talked about this on several shows before about, that transition of, the ups and downs. And, I know your show's called I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu because everyone feels that way that does this. Like anyone that does this, there are points in your life where you just go, I suck at this. Like, I'm not good at this, or I'm never going to get this. And, there's days where we joke and it's like, I drive home with no music on, or because it was an awful night or something. You know what I mean? So,
you don't deserve music.
right. It's
just
like,
quiet.
Quiet, trying to figure out what you're doing and stuff. So, but anyway, thanks, Chad. I appreciate it very much. And thanks for enduring all that conversation about me, Josh.
Man, I'm happy. I'm excited that somebody got their blue belt.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a jiu-jitsu lover. I love getting to see that from different people, just getting that next phase and going through the process.
Thank you. I appreciate it greatly. I do have a question for you because I read this off your website so you love HQ more than Kanye loves Kanye.
Well, that was written a long time ago.
So, this is still the same. Right?
I don't know if I can even make that claim anymore. This was written, I think, probably 4 years ago.
Was it?
And it's still been up there. So I don't know if anymore that I'm taking out Kanye when it comes to how much he loves himself, listen, he's a good dude and he has great music. I get all that. All jokes aside, you still love HQ from day one, right? Oh my gosh. Yes. That's your baby. That's like what you've put all your heart and soul into outside of obviously many other things, but this is huge for you, correct? Yes. This is my gym was my first successful business venture, if you call it that. It really generated a lot of my closest relationships now. And I also get to just experience so many different things because of that gym, because of the people that choose to compete and the people that we get to bring in for seminars, just all those things, or bring in for podcasts or whatever. It really has, for being just a place, it really has shaped my life quite a bit over the last 7 years.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I always love to tell people, like some people are like, it's not me, but I'm like, you're a huge percentage of everyone else's success because you set them up for success because of your mindset and what you're doing. I tell Chad this all the time. Yesterday was a prime example. We did a huge promotion, seminar and promotion, where a lot of people got stripes, belts promoted. We had 2 black belts that were promoted yesterday during our seminar.
And someone said, wow, this is so awesome. And I said, you know what's cool? I never really thought about this. And there was a point in my journey where I dumbed it down a little bit and was like, I just want this to be about me, about my journey. But then yesterday, I was like, not even yesterday, but in general, I said this to somebody and I said, you know what? I would never be here. This is just like a roll. It's a 50-50. It's a 50% chance that I'm going to win versus a 50% chance that they're going to win. That's how it's going to be. But I wouldn't successfully be here without my 50% being put in, Mike, and then the other 50% of every student here helping me. And I was like, that's actually a big, and they were like, oh, wow, I never really thought about it like that. And I'm like, yeah, like people who own academies, Josh, like yourself, like what you do for people and change their lives and, you know, project them to be different in terms of maybe something they didn't know. Like, so I say good on you, man. Like, keep that up for sure. Like, keep doing that kind of stuff. How many students you guys usually have at HQ?
So I actually have 2 gyms. I have my gym in Granite City, and then I have one of my black belts runs a school in Jerseyville, Illinois. It's called HeadnodHQ Jerseyville. And
nice.
So
Okay.
We, between the two, have like usually around 200.
Nice.
And
so
yeah,
awesome.
so that is, and that's, we've been kind of around there for quite a bit.
Nice. That's so awesome. I'm glad to hear that too, especially with, obviously, we don't get into it too much on the show, but what's happened over the last few years. And
of course, yeah,
the pandemic has changed the narrative of a lot of things, especially gyms in general. So I'm glad to hear that that's going, because we need it in our community. We need more people to, and you know, get into the gym, to BJJ specifically.
for sure.
So when's your last? Well, let's ask you this: your competition area, like what's going on, man? Are you competing soon?
So yes. So I actually am. I compete Friday. This Friday coming up. So
nice.
I'm gonna do Jiu-Jitsu Con.
Oh, very
Nice.
cool. Very cool. Awesome.
Very
you looking
cool.
forward to it?
We got 2 guys. Yeah, we got a couple guys coming out there.
Yeah.
All right. Doing Master Worlds or Jiu-Jitsu Con?
Well, Master Worlds. I have 1 purple belt doing Master Worlds, and I have a white belt doing Novice Worlds.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah. So
that'll be cool.
yeah. Something. It's probably it'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good to watch. I don't know if we can watch the white belt worlds on Flow like we can like Master Worlds, right? I don't know.
I would hope that you could watch all of it, right? I think it's all in the same venue. I mean, who knows though?
Right.
It's hard to say. Yeah, there'll be a lot going on. That's like the ADCC. It's like, I want to see every match. How many TVs? How many TVs do I need? Like, because you're not going to specifically just run them like one after. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be multiples going on until we get to the top of the brackets. Yeah. But it would be cool. I would love to see all that kind of stuff. You know, I have dog barking. If you guys heard that, I apologize.
My dog will chime in. He always chimes in.
I think the good thing though, Terry, with ADCC is there's not going to be a bad match. Sure, you're not going to see every single match, but there's not going to be a bad match. Those brackets are crazy.
And it's fun having to scramble kind of, you know, while you're at home and you're switching between, you're like, oh, I think this guy's about to fight. You know, oh no, I'm on the wrong mat. This is mat 3. Oh my gosh.
Right.
You know, and so I really love when I get to just sit down for the whole entire one of those events and you know, watch one. I did. Sure. I got to watch, just as a coach, I got to watch the ADCC West Coast trials in person.
Oh man!
And
wow, nice.
The guy that I brought, he went out pretty early, and so we just kind of hung out and watched the whole event. And I had a few friends that did really well in the event. But getting to just sit and watch that jiu-jitsu for that long, and all the teams and what was going on, and kind of getting to see all the narratives play out in one really big room, and not having to switch screens, that was so much fun.
Yeah, and the cool thing in seeing live jiu-jitsu at that level is the athletic ability of these guys, right? Like we see them on TV and you're like, oh, these guys are tough. But we brought Muhammad Ali in for a seminar one time, and seeing a guy that big move the way he did in person was just ridiculous.
Everybody I've ever heard that's been around him says that. Says like he is just monstrously big, and he can do a splits and a backflip.
Yeah, he could probably be an NFL middle linebacker, like run a 4.4 or something. Who knows? But he's just an athlete. But yeah, seeing that kind of jiu-jitsu in person is awesome.
That's what's been awesome with Flo. Like, fortunately now, we have that ability to watch it. Like before, we didn't have that. Like even years ago. I mean, it hasn't been around that long, but we couldn't watch all the matches. We couldn't watch ADCC on the regular like we can now, or like this weekend. Like now that I know you're going to be there, Josh, it's like, oh, sweet. Like I'm going to get on there and look for you because I got to meet you, man. It's like, hey, I want you to do great. Like I want everyone to succeed. That's kind of my thing. Like I just push people, want people to be great at everything that they're doing. But before I could have this show and it's like, oh, well, I have no way to watch it unless I fly out there and see it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But now it's like, oh, sweet. Like there's another person that I know. Awesome. And then get to see, a great match. And I'm sure you're going to bring the fire and great match.
I'll do my best.
How's training been going for you?
It's been going really good. I've been healthy for the first time in a while. Nice. I changed weight classes. And so I'm excited to kind of try out my new weight class. And
up or down?
I went down.
You went down. Okay. Very good. Nice.
Yeah. I had done middleweight for a lot of my jiu-jitsu career. And when I got my black belt, I had an injury. I kind of gained some weight. I tried to kind of gain some muscle around that injury, and just decided I would start trying to compete at medium heavyweight. And I did for quite a while and dealt with some different injuries later on. And I thought just maybe losing weight might help extend my career a little bit and let me compete a little bit more. And it has definitely let me feel better. So
nice. That's good.
So we'll see how it translates into wins and losses.
Well, this probably isn't, but will this be your first hardest go at this weight this weekend?
So no, I actually competed, oh my gosh, like a week ago.
Oh, did you really?
Ago.
Okay.
So I did Chicago Open. That was the first time that I had competed in like a year. Okay. And I did Chicago Open. I lost to a guy who's really tough. I think he's like top 5 in my weight class. And so it was a really good match. I competed very, very well with him. I definitely showed myself that I can compete with the top guys in my division.
Sure.
But of course, you want to win your first one out.
Right. I get it.
But I think I'm going to hit my weight a little bit better. I think hopefully I feel a little bit better for this one. And regardless, I'll be competing again afterwards and just keep trying to learn from it and get as much in at adult as I can for as long as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing that because it's important. It's important for all aspects, not only just for yourself. Like I love hearing you're like, I went down a weight and like you feel so much better. Could you tell a difference as you were going through that transition?
Yes.
Like each time.
Absolutely. For me, it was because I did it very slow. And that's something I'd never done before. Obviously, when you compete in jiu-jitsu, you know how to diet, you know how to cut weight, but you probably do it in a really aggressive way, right?
Yeah.
And what was interesting is just as I got a little bit older, I stopped being able to do it that way. And so I was like, if I'm going to make middleweight, if I'm going to lose 20 pounds, 20 something pounds, I need to do it over time. And so as I got probably at the 10-pound mark, I started going, okay, this is a little bit lighter than I compete at usually. I feel pretty good. And then, just the lower I got there came a point where I started to get really hungry and go,
go,
man, you know what? I would rather not compete at this weight class. But I think that I don't know. I just think that it's something that if I stay a little more consistent with for a little bit longer, it'll be easier to make consistently.
Sure.
Because it used to be a lot easier for me to make it consistently.
And when you get older, it does obviously it's very, I don't say very difficult, but it's very hard. Your body changes, work the way.
Man.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
I do this all the time. I'm like, oh man.
You hit on something too, Josh, that I tell my guys all the time is, hey, we're doing a tournament, I got to start cutting weight. Well, there's a difference between cutting weight and losing weight. Like you said, you have to make a lifestyle change if it's over, I don't even know. What do you think? 10 pounds? I mean, cutting weight to me,
even 10 pounds, I would say is close, probably even 6 or 7. And especially for most people, when you're competing at lower levels, I don't think it's worth it. I've gone most of my jiu-jitsu career without really having to cut. This is probably the leanest that I've tried to stay in like my whole jiu-jitsu career. And so, but I've been able to compete with everybody up until now. You know, and it always was something that I knew, like, in my back pocket. Hey, if I start to just not feel comfortable in this weight class, I think I could still make middleweight. And so I was able to.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome for sure. And it's discipline, man. It's very much a mindset and discipline and dedication to it, because you knew what you had to do from a long period instead of just going, hey, I'm going to cut 10 pounds. Now, yes, it can be done. Is it super healthy for you? No. You know what I mean? Like, as what, Chad's relating to, like, hey, I got a comp in like 2 months, I'm going to cut 10. It's like, okay, you do that. But like, Josh, the way that you're explaining it, like, you did it in the, like, the healthy portion of feeling good the whole time. You weren't feeling
I attempted to do it.
Because you did say you were hungry.
I really did. Towards the end, it got very hard to make for me. And so that's like, I really want to hit it better this time.
Sure.
But it's just a lot of times when you haven't competed in a long time, I always notice that first time back at the weight class is so, no matter what weight class I'm doing, is just always tough. Your body's just not used to it.
When you competed last weekend, could you tell then, even like at that weight, was that your first time at that weight class last weekend?
Well, in 5 years it was.
Okay. And so you could tell the difference then, right? Like, I know I asked that, but I mean, when you got on the mat, obviously we tell everyone all the time, doing in the gym, you can go as hard as you want. When you get on the mats in competition, it's way harder. It's like, it's a fight, sort of, you know what I mean? Like, it is legitly. Go ahead.
I could tell. Yeah, I could tell. It was tough to say. The guy that I fought was very tough. And when somebody's tough, you use max effort a lot. And so when I'm using max effort, I'm really not even noticing whether or not he's strong. I'm just noticing that I'm having to use max effort a lot.
You're right.
And so I can't even go like, oh yeah, it's at middleweight, I definitely felt stronger than I normally do, because sometimes at medium heavyweight, I felt stronger than guys. Sometimes at medium heavyweight, I felt there were a few guys that I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane how strong this guy is.
Sure.
And so, so it just, I don't know. It just depends. But there were times that I was fighting at medium heavyweight and I was fighting guys that were really good middleweights and they were just not cutting. They were just doing an open and they just didn't want to cut. So they were competing in my weight class. And I would go with them and I would be like, okay, well, if I cut to middleweight, these guys are going to be strong too. Like, it has to be more about me doing it. You know, it has to be more about, hey, maybe I'm healthier, maybe I'm faster, maybe I feel better at this weight. That was more of the reason for me versus like, I think I'm going to be stronger. To be honest, as a guy that is competing at adult black belt and isn't on anything, I'm not going to be stronger than most of the guys that I fight.
Right.
You know, that's not going to be, or at least I'm not going to be stronger for 10 minutes than most of the guys that I fight, you know?
Sure.
And so that's really not even, for me, that wasn't as big of a thought process. It was more of just, I think I'm going to feel better as a middleweight. And it's tough to say on that one performance because I didn't feel better. But I know around this weight, I have felt substantially better. So I think it's just a matter of getting it right.
Yeah, I was going to say, just now it's just a matter of time. Like, just as you know this, you've been through this, you've been on a long journey and getting to the black belt and beyond, already what you're up for. Like, it's like, hey, well, this is one comp. This is one comp. Like, I already know where I need to build now to go, versus like maybe someone else. It's like, hey, I just made a huge change. I've never really done this before. and now I'm competing at blue, purple, or whatever. You know what I mean? Even maybe white belt. It's like, oh, well, and don't get me wrong, people out there that are listening, you can still build on that too. It's just a little bit different when you've been around for a while and done that.
But even being around and really knowing, like, even when I've been injured and I haven't been competing, I'm at all these different IBJJFs with my students that are competing. We're all in these, in these fights together. So I'm learning with them. But still, I will go and compete sometimes and I will still feel like, man, I know nothing, I know nothing. And it's the one thing that I know is you're going to come back a lot of times. You're going to know nothing. You're going to feel not great. And if you just stay consistent, you will either eventually feel better or you'll die.
Exactly.
It'll just be over. Eventually, if you keep that consistency, one of those two things is going to happen.
Right.
And so for me, I just, hopefully I can, start winning.
I suspect the ladder is going to be up. It's no death for you, man. The ladder's going up. Hey, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu?
I have been training for almost 15 years now.
Oh, okay. Sweet. Very cool. Did you like wrestle in school or do anything in high school or anything? Or was
no.
It like...
So, my mom made me start jiu-jitsu. My mom,
wow, no
I
kidding.
had no desire to do it, but I was overweight and they would put me in sports. They would put me in swimming. They would put me in all kinds of crap. And I just, I'm not a good rule follower. And all of these things were very, they were very rule oriented and I just didn't like it. I wasn't a super social kid anyway. But I always had interest in martial arts because my dad always had interest in martial arts. Okay. And, there was a school that had opened up. There was an MMA school that had opened up like 5 minutes from my house and it was owned by Matt Hughes and Kyle Watson was the jiu-jitsu coach there. And it had just opened up and my mom goes, hey, I just heard about this. You're going to go. I was like, okay, I'll go. I'll probably have to go like once a week. Like I always do to these things, and I went to my first class. My first class is under the guy who is still my coach to this day. And just absolutely loved it. Just absolutely went, okay, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. And, I have.
Here you are. Yes, which is awesome. There is something to it, though, isn't there? Like, I mean, everyone that listens to the show, most likely you out there, you perform or practice in jiu-jitsu or some form of martial arts, I suspect. But there is something to it, isn't there, Josh? Like when you go and you have that feeling, it's like a new feeling that you've never felt before. The puzzle aspect of it, the trying to get better. Obviously, thinking in your head that you suck, but still wanting more. Which is like, people are like, wait, what? Why don't you just quit? Cause this is terrible. It's like, it doesn't work that way. I try to tell people that don't do it. It's like, there's something that says, dude, go back, just go do it again. And then another.
And there's something about mastery of a skill like jiu-jitsu, because we see with, kids that grow up in the favela that still have phenomenal jiu-jitsu, or kids that grow up in the middle of nowhere in America and still have phenomenal jiu-jitsu. We get to see that all the time now. And I don't know, I think what happens for a lot of people with jiu-jitsu is they get excited about the mastery aspect. It is this thing that we kind of all start even in a sense of going from white to black belt. Sure. We don't all start even with each other in jiu-jitsu. But with that aspect of, this is something I could master. We all go to school, at least in America, we all go to school, we get whatever grades we get, but we don't ever really master anything. Even when we go to college, a lot of people start their new job after college and don't feel like they know what they're doing.
Oh, 100%.
They're not masters, but jiu-jitsu is something that, hopefully if you're at a good place, when you receive your black belt, you have, to some extent, mastered this thing. And if you know how to do that, you can master all kinds of other areas of life and all kinds of other different things.
Definitely. 100%. Were you going to say something, Chad?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Oh, go ahead.
What was it like for you, Josh, when you got your black belt?
Man, it was weird. I was injured at the time. And so I wasn't even training. Do you guys know Nick Sanders?
I know that name. I know the name.
Great masters competitor. Anytime I can tie his name into this story, I always try to. I was rolling with Nick and he injured me. He hit me with an overhead sweep. And it was on me. It was definitely that I tried to fight a sweep that, I tried to do something young and athletic, and it didn't happen. And I landed on my shoulder. My shoulder crunched really bad. But the story I was telling people for a long time was like, yeah, Nick hit me with a tombstone pile driver, broke my shoulder. But that was kind of like, that happened a few months before. I was on the mats. I was hanging out with people, but I really couldn't do any kind of training. I didn't have a lot of use of my arm. And so at the time, I kind of suspected like, hey, this seminar coming up, I feel like my black belt's coming. I feel like that this is going to happen. And I don't know. I was very excited to get to compete at black belt. That was really, for me, something that I had always dreamed of doing as a kid. I got to see my coach compete at black belt, and it was just always the coolest thing to me. And so I was really excited about that. My dad trains too, and he was already a black belt. I was excited that my school had 2 black belts. But really it was just okay, now I've got this. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
Like, do I stop or keep going? I mean, and you were never going to stop because that's not the nature of jiu-jitsu. Like, once you're to that point. Go ahead.
Even with the idea that, I never will let my students call me professor, but even with the idea of like, oh, you're a professor if you're a black belt. Okay, well, what are you going to dedicate your black belt to? What are you going to discover about jiu-jitsu? What are you going to give back to jiu-jitsu? Sure. And that was kind of what I thought, like, okay, I want to, I'm somebody who is blessed enough to be able to get a black belt at such a young age. Not a lot of people get that opportunity. I get to be this age with this perspective. Sure. I should use it. I should develop it more, and I should use it. And so that was kind of more responsibility, probably was what I was feeling than anything else.
Which is good, because I've never heard anyone. No one's ever explained it like that. Like, you felt a responsibility, not that no one. Because I've never specifically asked. I'm sure every black belt has some responsibility to just the community itself, and paying it forward, passing that torch along, giving knowledge to those before you to know and to learn from those who have come after you even more. You know what I mean? To keep going. I've always, we always hear the cliche, or I call it a cliche, as in like, oh, well, I got my black belt and now I'm starting over. Which I kind of feel that way just getting my blue belt. It's like, all right, cool. Now I'm going to figure out what I'm doing here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to start honing in on certain moves and just focusing on this all the time. Not that I didn't before, but I just wanted, I don't know, maybe just different perspective. And I've heard black belts say that too. Like, Chad is not that he's, specifically said, hey, I'm just going to start over.
But I think what each belt gives you, and we don't talk about enough, is that confidence from your coach, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when I got my black belt, I was a brown belt for 6 years. We had some affiliation changes and stuff, and I'm under James Klingerman now. James is an awesome dude, gave me my black belt, and then it clicked, kind of like, I do deserve this. I've worked hard to get here, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where Terry's at. Like, hey, I'm a blue belt now. I got a little bit of confidence,
Somebody believes in my jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. After, we had this conversation early on. He's like, I suck. I'm like, yes, you should. You haven't figured it out yet. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes.
Dude, I promise you, every time that you think that you suck, I have thought it too. Because you can create an echo chamber in jiu-jitsu where you don't suck. You could only roll with your 3-month and under white belts, and you wouldn't suck anymore. You would be like,
just wreck them all.
Yeah, I am amazing at jiu-jitsu. I could do that honestly, it's becoming very hard to do that at my school, but I can kind of do that at my school, right? And I can, on the right class times, I can do that at my school. That's a better way to say it. But I could create this echo chamber where I don't lose, and I'm not going to learn as much from that. Of course, I can still learn, but I'm not going to learn as much as me and one of my coaches were talking about this on like last Friday. and we were talking about a certain idea on passing that I've been using a lot. And he goes, man, this really is great. He goes, where did you come up with this? And I go, you remember when I fought Yago? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, when I was on bottom, I was like, hey, he's doing this. And I'm literally down there thinking, he's doing this to me. He didn't do this to me the last time. We fought last time. He didn't do this. And it is totally changing everything. And then I wouldn't have gotten that if I had stayed home so I could, spoiler alert, I lost that match. I would not have, I wouldn't have gotten that piece of information though, if I had stayed home. If I had just gone, no, it's more important that I don't suck. It's more important that I win rounds and I can beat other people.
There's the lividity to that is 100% on, because, not having a lot of knowledge in jiu-jitsu, but one thing I learned very quickly was, I don't want to roll with that dude over there. Not because I can beat him, but he's newer. I want to roll with this guy over here because he's going to beat me. And I know he's going to beat me. And that's kind of how I've approached the last several, few years here of my training and rolling. It was like, nope, I roll with you. You're an upper belt, roll with you, upper belt, roll with you, upper belt, and I would get destroyed. And sometimes I would get good positions, but I'm like, all right, I'm learning. Like, this is what I want to be. I'm okay with this. I'm totally fine with tapping or whatever it takes. Cause for me, it was like knowledge. It was like, this is the wealth of knowledge where I need to be in. I need to be in this deep hole. Okay. Except everyone out there, I did have the times of saying, this sucks. I suck. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even know if I want to go anymore. Like Chad knows. Like, and I mean,
I talk him off the ledge a few times.
Yeah, of course.
And that's normal. It's okay. It's okay to have those feelings and those talks.
Yeah, it hit me yesterday, like a little bit. We had a fire and I was sitting outside and I was like, wow, when people explain a journey of jiu-jitsu, if you don't understand it, if you're young in your jiu-jitsu, that's say white belt and maybe further. And obviously it's going to keep going. But in my opinion, and Josh, get your take on this too, like that journey is everything. It's outside of the mat too. Like it's not just on the mat. It's like there's a whole life-changing part there that you go through that maybe, I'm assuming everybody kind of goes through this and maybe I'm speculating that they are, but I did. What's your take? What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, man, I do. I think that maybe not everybody, maybe not every single person. Some people, man, honestly, some people, blue belt even comes easy too. Some people, like I've seen guys come into jiu-jitsu and not face and compete a lot and not face any real adversity until like purple belt and competing at the international level of purple belt.
Okay.
And so I think for those people, I really think that maybe that change maybe happens later. It's just, and there are probably people that, like we said, can create these I don't lose echo chambers, where they're the king, and I think a lot of times those people probably never learned those lessons, at least it doesn't seem like it to me.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good take for sure. Cause I want that. Like I would never change it now. At that time I wanted to change it. At that time I was frustrated, angry, sad, whatever have you. I went through every emotion, I look back now, yesterday trying to reflect on the last, 2.5 years and going, oh yeah, I would never change this. Not now. Like I love every part of that I went through because it made me who I am now just to keep going. It's going to push me to, I know some people joked that we've had on the show and stuff before yesterday. They're like, hey, well, nice knowing you, like blues flu and all this, and it's not me. Like I'm stubborn as I'll get out. So like, I'm going to be there Monday because I want to get beat up by everybody at the gym, but that dynamic is, I could see that, like someone doing an echo chamber, being successful till they're a purple belt or whatever at one point in life, and then all of a sudden have adversity. And it's like, wow, I would hate to be that though. Wouldn't you guys hate to be that? Like, wouldn't it suck to be at that point and then hit adversity?
I don't know, man. Some of these kids, they learn jiu-jitsu so fast and they're so good. I'm like, and people used to be, and I started really young and people would always be jealous of me. And I'm like, yeah, that just carries over. I get it. I see these kids that are brown belts that are like 19 and I roll with them and I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
You're like, what's happening?
Are you serious? Where did this kid come from? Where has he been training this whole time?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Look at Mika Galvao just got his black belt, right? He's 19, 18, 19. That kid is ridiculous.
Yeah. I remember seeing him. I think it was called BJJ.net. It's like Dan Lucart's show. They would do these open divisions. It was for a certain amount of money, but it was anybody of any, as long as you made the weight, you could compete in it, but it's in the gi. Wow, and I remember Mika and a few other kids from that school coming up and like shocking everybody. Mika was like 13 and he flying triangle to black belt, I think. He was like submitting. I think he beat 2 black belts in the division and then crushed a few other guys too. Yeah. But he was like 13.
Yeah.
He was
whole
jacked,
like you said,
too.
that whole crew, Baby Shark, all them guys are tough, man.
My opinion is that is the best team in jiu-jitsu right now. I think that Mika's dad is the best coach in jiu-jitsu and people don't seem to realize it yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue.
Dude, those kids they're so good. You know what I mean? They're, and then obviously they're super young, they're homegrown. They're really not, they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. That's all they have. Like this is all they're doing. Yeah.
And they are, they're phenomenal. And it really does seem to me like, especially lately, Mika has come in with so many different game plans for matches. And it seems to me like it's his dad. His dad really understands jiu-jitsu. It really understands winning and understands training. Just when you hear Mika talk about some of the philosophies of like, this is how you should be focused on learning techniques. This is how you should be, what you should be focused on. It's just really simple, really good stuff. And it makes me go, okay, this kid's 19, 18, and he really understands learning jiu-jitsu. He learned very closely from somebody who really understands learning jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Gave him those building blocks. Yeah, for sure. Gave him those building blocks to learn how to absorb it that way, to be coached that way, and to be coachable. You have to be coachable. Like you have to accept that and have a mindset to be coachable, when you have this, which is really good.
And I'm going bold prediction too. I think that Mika wins 77 kilograms for ADCC. I know how tough it is. I know JT is a god in that division, but I'm taking Mika in that one.
Yeah.
Just watching, the big card a few weeks ago when he was on the flow card, and because Baby Shark was on that card too. Right?
They had 3 of their guys on that card, and they ran through everybody.
I didn't realize Baby Shark was on there. How old is he?
Probably the same.
He's around the same age.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were on the same team, but after watching that match, I was like, holy crap, like his jiu-jitsu is so freaking good too. So it makes sense now because I didn't put that 2 and 2 together, didn't really pay attention to that, Josh, until you mentioned that. Like I didn't realize, and Chad, you're saying like, who else was on that card that was on their team?
Fabricio Andre.
Oh, he was. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. And he is, he's 21, a world champion in the gi. He beat Shane Jamil Hill. Yeah. And that's like, what a monstrous win that was.
Yeah.
He's super tough too. I'm curious to see how he does at ADCC. He's super good in the gi, but you haven't seen as much of him in no gi.
In the no gi, sure. Do you train both, Josh?
Yeah.
Guys,
I just train jiu-jitsu, man. Even when I teach class anymore, like I'll post on our team page, it'll be a gi class, and I'll be like, hey, I don't care what you wear, just show up.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll just do jiu-jitsu.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite go-to or anything specific?
Like gi or no gi?
No. Moves.
Oh, not really, man. I have at times. There was a very long time that all I would do is triangles. But I don't know. As I've gotten better, as I've learned jiu-jitsu more, I've cared more and more about being great at like dominant position and getting to it, escaping it, and keeping it, all of the things that come into it. And so a lot of my submissions are super boring then, because they're from mount. And so, or they're from the back. So they're a one arm rear naked choke, or they're a head and arm choke. If I'm doing my best jiu-jitsu. If I'm doing something else, it didn't go as planned.
No, that's not. I mean, we've talked about, Bernardo over at BJJ Fanatics. He's how many titles did he win, Chad?
A lot. I don't know.
It was, and some would say by basic submissions, right? We've talked about it before, and it's like
very simple. Yeah.
Right. Very simple. But I think when you're so good at something like that, or you understand it, it can be that way. That's how jiu-jitsu kind of can become, obviously, with the knowledge that like you two right here have. Not that it's simple. I'm not trying to say that jiu-jitsu is easy at all, but you see things can come to you a little bit quicker. Like I ask myself that now, even rolling, I'm like, or I've Chad in the past, when is it going to be like instantaneously, or will it ever be that? Maybe it won't be, but sometimes I think, man, my hand should just go there. Now I have seen stuff over my time so far where yes, hands end up just going where they've muscle memory to go to now during rolls and whatnot. So don't dumb down that it's like, simple.
Here's the thing too. Here, we all have different submissions I'm sure we like to hit, but that's what everybody always asks. What submissions you like to hit? And we can say that cheesy answer, the ones that work, right?
Yeah.
But like without that dominant position, those submissions don't matter.
Sure.
Right. Once you get to that point where I don't want to say mastering, we've used that word, but getting to those positions, the submissions are going to be easy and probably boring. Right.
But in so many submissions, people can eat so many, especially that's something I found at like an adult black belt is people will eat arm bars in a 1-star event, and it's just me and this dude. Like, dude, you're getting second place no matter what, and I'm up on points. And this guy's like, nah, break it. And so you see people like this, they're so much more willing to do that. And so it makes me go, okay, well, I think beating people positionally first makes a lot more sense then. Because if I put all my all of my jiu-jitsu based on an ankle lock, which I love ankle locks. And I feel like I have a very good ankle lock. I've finished matches in it. But if I put all my jiu-jitsu on that and a guy just has flexible ankles, now the rest of my jiu-jitsu is out the window. Nobody has flexible, I'm flat on my hips and my back and I can move. Nobody has that flexibility. And so to me, learning to truly control somebody and keep them from being able to move is like, at least for the last bit of time, the last year, since you really see Gordon do it so much, that has been what I focus on.
Yeah, just wear them out, right? We always tell people slow roast them, right? You just gotta wear them out. That's the best thing to do.
And of course, if I'm rolling with a blue belt, I'm not going to do the same thing, right? It's not going to be about me playing my super tight. I get my pass. I create a lot of pressure. I just try to kill you, unless I don't like you. Then, if you were really annoying or something, then I might. If at the seminar you were asking all kinds of questions, I was like, this guy's trying to stump me. I'm gonna put it on this guy. I'm going to be a lot looser. I'm going to have a lot more flow and probably try to catch a little more high risk stuff. But if I'm really doing my best and my favorite jiu-jitsu, it's passing the guard and getting to mount and then putting a lot of pressure on the person.
Pressure on it.
Yeah. Great example. We just saw that not too long ago was Jacob Couch and J-Rod. Like that was he did to him what Gordon did to him, right? To Hammer. That was an awesome match.
And I think in Nogi, I don't know, maybe people aren't thinking of it this way, but to me, it seems like it. But you're seeing some people use the head and arm control more than just the head and arm choke. Because if you watched Couch, he really wasn't going to finish a lot of the time. He was putting a ton of pressure on him a lot of the time. And the beauty of the head and arm control is you're not going to get called for stalling because I have a submission. I'm not stalling.
He's working that.
Yeah, I'm putting pressure on his neck. I'm working towards a submission, and I'm very close to it. And so I noticed it. One of my students was grappling somebody. I don't even remember what the tournament was, but it was no-gi, and she got same head and arm control from half guard. And it was so interesting how she was able to keep it for the entire match. And that seemed to be the game plan. The coaches seemed to be like, do not lose that control. Do not. And I was like, wait, she's not trying to finish this. And I started to click. That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a really good way to, and if you think about it too, I'm also putting you in a position where you can go, because J-Rod could have turned really hard and risked getting his back taken like it would happen. Right. But you do have a choice. It's just most likely you're going to get your back taken in this position too. And so you either take all my weight and eventually let me choke you, or you take the back. I really think that people are seeing that as a strategic thing. So eventually we should be seeing like, hey, head and arm control is the worst thing that you can let happen. We should not let that happen.
That's a great perspective and vision on your part, Josh, to see that and to notice it. Cause now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh wait, yeah. Cause Gordon did that to
everyone.
Everyone. He does it to everyone at the end of the day. Yes. But to see that, and it's like, oh, that pressure, it's awful. It looks miserable. He was attempting it, but building for it. He wasn't going to take it. And I'm like, oh wait, with you saying that, Josh, I think, is this like the new heel hook? Like, is this the new, because the hooks, like, not that they're going away, but leg entanglements have been huge over the last couple years. Not that they weren't before, but we see them a lot, especially in no-gi and stuff like that. Is this going to be something that we see like a lot in matches now?
So I hope so. To me, it's a perfect expression of jiu-jitsu, because you are not relinquishing your space. You're not relinquishing. So often, so much of the stuff that we do in jiu-jitsu, like, it's about controlling the person. And then when we're about to go for a submission, we just throw the control out and we go, now it's all for this submission. But if you watch a guy like Mika Goval, he does this thing where he can control a person and then start to take that control and transfer it to a limb, or take that control and transfer it to a choke. Right. And so that head and arm control it's something you really shouldn't relinquish. If we're trying to keep jiu-jitsu as realistic, like if you and I were fighting and I got this position that you couldn't escape from without giving up your back, and I'm eventually going to choke you, that's amazing jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's the core of what, you're right, 100%. It's the core. It's the core of what jiu-jitsu, I'm going to say created for, but in kind of retrospect, it is.
That's just pure jiu-jitsu. So let me ask you this, Josh. I very rarely get sucked into any kind of Facebook debates or anything, just because of what, it's not worth your time. But somebody,
I like the lead up to this question.
Well,
I like that.
And it didn't get, out of hand or anything like that. But I very rarely comment, just because why? But somebody had posted about getting your jiu-jitsu up with the times, like the jiu-jitsu of 20 years ago doesn't work. The jiu-jitsu of 10 years ago is useless. And I started thinking, I'm like, man, I just watched Gordon force his way to half guard, pass the half guard to mount and smash you. If that's not 1990s Saulo Ribeiro jiu-jitsu, I don't know what is. And it worked pretty well. You agree with that? Like,
so my thing is, grappling is timeless.
Yeah,
it is not. So of course, people find new ways to express the same ideas, right? They find different ways to maybe systemize them, different ways to stack them together. But to me, all of grappling is about control. We think about wrestling. It is about controlling somebody so then you can take them down. Yep. You know what I mean? You gain your control on the feet and then you take them down. You think about judo. It is about hand fighting for control, and then you can throw your opponent, right? We think about jiu-jitsu. It is about hand fighting for control, and then you can submit your opponent. Right. And so to me, people are going to express it differently with some different techniques. But the general ideas, I think, are always going to be there. The general, the general concepts is like a buzzword in jiu-jitsu, but the general concepts will, to me, always be there. We will just get better at explaining them, and people then will get more artistic and more free with how they express them.
Sure.
I think.
Right. Sure.
But I think that there's the beauty of the Gordon Jiu-Jitsu is that it's simplicity, is its efficiency, its simplicity. Yeah. That is, and it seems like a timeless jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And the other example I used was Marcelo. Marcelo was never flashy. He would just arm drag you and take your back, or, he kept it simple. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. it's fun learning the worm guard stuff. And, I'm not saying shut your mind down to new stuff, but what works, what works. I mean,
yeah, kind of like what you said earlier, Josh, like you've learned, and Chad, you've done this. I've asked you this, your basics of jiu-jitsu, like you went through that whole time, but you also took in stuff. For instance, you're rolling with a blue belt. Like you said earlier, Josh, you're going to try some of that other stuff versus, hey, I'm going to go roll with a fellow black belt. It's like, well, right now I'm going to stick to what I'm going to say what I'm good at, but it's different jiu-jitsu. It depends on who you're rolling with. Really, it really does. Like what jiu-jitsu you're going to do. Not that, keeping it simple, when you're at a super high level like you guys are, doesn't mean it doesn't work. Like it's still going to work, just fine. But me, I'm still going to suck. It doesn't matter. I'll get there someday though. No, I'm just going to keep going. Keep watching videos like your stuff, Josh, and talking to my coach and talking to other people. And it's like, hey, how much more knowledge can I get here? How amazing has jiu-jitsu changed your life, Josh? Like in terms of, I know that's a big question. That's a hard, like put you on the spot. Or let's say this, did you ever imagine that jiu-jitsu would be today what it was when you understood it more? Because I know you were young when you started, so I don't want to be like, hey, when you started, could you imagine what jiu-jitsu is today? Well, I was a young kid.
Man, I have lived longer doing jiu-jitsu than I lived without doing jiu-jitsu. So it's tough for me to have any perspective of even really, well, to have any perspective of what life was like before jiu-jitsu, because I was just a kid. Life was like being a kid, Right. And even then we were still interested in martial arts. We did Gracie self-defense, VHS tapes in our garage. We were like, we've always wanted to grapple. And so, but when I really got into it, I was, when I was 14, I started competing pretty immediately. And do you guys remember I think it's got a different name now, but the Ohio Grappling Challenge?
Yep. Oh yeah. AGC. It's an AGC now.
AGC. Okay. Now it's the AGC. Okay.
Yeah.
Dustin Ware. Yes. And so Kyle was competing on a invite division, and he said, hey, you should go compete. And I was 3 months in and I competed, and it was such a cool thing. I saw this was a time when you didn't really see black belts. I saw my first black belts because Kyle was a purple belt at the time, and he was in the division with purple, brown, and black belts. And I saw my first black belts in person, and it was super cool. It was just like, oh my gosh, this is larger than life. And of course, that was in a high school or a high school gymnasium. Sure, right. We weighed in on a bathroom scale. It was very, very small potatoes. But to me, at 14 years old, it was huge.
Yeah,
it was what mattered. It was the biggest thing. And so to say did I know jiu-jitsu would be where it is now? In my mind, it was always this big, in my mind, everybody loved jiu-jitsu,
Sure,
and
right.
So, my perspective was always skewed because I grew up in it, I guess.
Yeah. No, no, that's a very good point. Like you were kind of, you were born on the mats, so to speak. You were young. So it's like, you don't know anything different versus what you've seen progress. That's huge. Go ahead.
I have AGC, OGC story for you both. So as years, it could have been that same tournament because Kyle was there, but one of my guys was going against one of Kyle's guys. I was coaching somebody else. Brad, who I just promoted to black belt yesterday, was coaching the other guy. And at the end of the match, got into an argument with Kyle, not knowing who it was. And I came over. I'm like, dude, you don't want to argue with him. I don't know if he had already been on the Ultimate Fighter yet, or it was after that. But I'm like, I had to tell him who it was. I'm like, yeah, let's just walk away from this one.
Man, Kyle's the nicest guy. He wouldn't have had any problem. You wouldn't have had to worry about it at all.
Yeah, but it was funny. It was just after I told him who it was, he's like, oh man.
That happens sometimes.
I think that my first tournament doing it, I was 14. I think I weighed 130 pounds. And my first match, this kid weighed, they would just combine divisions. They just didn't have a lot of kids competing. And so I'm in a 6 month and under division. This kid's in the division above me. He's trained longer. He's 170 pounds. And he's an MMA fighter. He's fought like 4 fights of amateur MMA. And I am a kid who started jiu-jitsu to lose weight. 3 months ago. I haven't even lost the weight yet. I haven't even made the post where I'm like, hey, look at me in this old shirt. No, I'm brand new. And man, I got beat down. But I ended up I had 3 more matches that day. I won 2 of the other ones, and I lost in had a really close match in the final of my gi division, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm gonna do this forever. But that was at an AGC now, but an OGC at the time.
Yeah,
that's very cool. That's awesome. What a great connection. That's very cool.
I spent a lot of time. I mean, that was Columbus is 2-hour drive south for us, so we did a lot of those early tournaments that Dustin threw. It was the only tournament around. I mean, it was before he was doing it. It was the Gracie Nationals, and they ran the art. And we all know how those old Gracie tournaments ran, very slow. So Dustin started throwing good tournaments, and that's where everybody went. So
nice.
Now there's tournaments every weekend in every organization.
I love that.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I love that you can just compete, man.
Yeah. I have the white belt that is Trace that's going to the Novice Worlds. Probably has 70 matches at white belt.
Oof.
Yeah.
Just because he did
that's awesome.
Yeah, he did grappling.
That's more than a lot of black belts have.
Yeah.
He
does a lot of those. Well, he does Grappling Industries does round robin no matter how many's in your bracket.
I like that.
Crazy, right? If you have a big bracket. But yeah, I mean, he'll go to one and get 10 matches in a day.
Some of my students signed up for submission challenge, and they're like a submission only one, but you can sign up for a year membership and you can do all of their tournaments. They had 20 something tournaments, all within what we would consider as Midwesterners driving distance. Right. And they were it was $120 or something like that. And then they had it was on sale at the time, but it was 300 and something. And it was a lifetime membership. You could do all of their tournaments. And so a bunch of my students are like, yeah, we're submission only guys now. Yeah, we're in. Let's do it.
Wow. That's cool.
Let's go. Yeah. That's so not jiu-jitsu, but racing. And here in Stark County, they do that. They do something called a series. It's to a restaurant. I won't name the restaurant on the show, but you can pay in the beginning of running season. And my wife does it, and she runs every race the entire season.
That's
she pays
cool.
one price, and she's like, "Hey, I know this is what we're doing because I got stuck running Friday night on a race." I'm still sore because Terry doesn't run anymore. I just do jiu-jitsu. Which helps my running, and my wife hates it because she's like, "You can still run. This sucks. You don't train at this." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of come roll."
See, I train jiu-jitsu so I don't have to run away. Right.
This is what Chad says.
So I don't have to run.
It's like I don't have to run now. Yeah, that's awesome. Crap, I was going to ask you something. I can't remember what the heck it was. It slipped my mind. Dang. Oh well. Forget it. Chad, what do you got? You got anything? You gotta. I can't remember what it was. It was something about the. Oh. Are you a film watcher from matches?
Yes.
Okay. So a film studier. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. How much has that played a difference in your game? So I talk about this to other people, like, hey, do you watch films? And Chad and I have talked about different things. Like I asked him about like what instructionals to watch, and he's like, watch matches. And not specifically my own matches because I don't compete, but
just watch jiu-jitsu.
Just watch jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Is that kind of what you approached it, Josh?
Okay. So I think that most of the time what you're getting from watching jiu-jitsu is inspiration. You're really not getting, yes, sometimes we watch instructionals and we get certain information, but a lot of times that's not what it is. A lot of times we just see something exciting and we go, I could do that. I wish I knew how to do that.
Sure.
And then you get this bit of inspiration. If you use it well, it turns into a good technique or a good, a good idea, a good position, whatever for you. But it can kind of change your jiu-jitsu. So my favorite way to watch tape is the same way that I would watch anything that I enjoy. I learned to cook from cooking YouTube, and I didn't really copy a lot of recipes. I just watched people cook. And then eventually they would all make a recipe and I would go, okay, I'll try this one. This seems really simple. And I would try it. And with jiu-jitsu, it's the same. I find people that I enjoy watching, people whose jiu-jitsu I am a fan of. And when I feel like watching jiu-jitsu, or when sometimes some of my students will come over and we'll just watch, and it keeps you a little more accountable.
Mm-hmm.
But then all I do is I watch. Sometimes I know the competitor enough that I just watch them expressing the idea that I know that they always do. Right. And I'm just watching it in more detail. And I'm just going, oh, when I try that, I don't put my hands there. I'm going to try that next time. And it's just that little bit of inspiration. And like the more you become a fan of somebody, or the more you find certain matches that you really enjoy watching, the more you can take out of them too.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, that makes 100%. That's awesome. I love that take on it. Definitely, because it's to look at it that way. There's several different ways, obviously, to look at this. And there are people, and I joke about it. I'm like, oh, watching reels. Like people are like, oh, I got 1 minute reels and I'm going to be a superstar at this. And actually our seminar Klingerman kind of joked about this yesterday. He's like, I watched a reel and I became an expert.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to watch more than a reel, but watch what you enjoy. Like watch what you enjoy for sure.
And to me, jiu-jitsu is not fun if it is not becoming easier to understand. And like that is truly what makes jiu-jitsu fun. So if I can watch somebody do, for example, I've referenced Mika a few times, and I've given up my man crush on him. Crap, now everyone knows. But when I watch Mika, he does certain things in the way he plays guard. Really, really keeps his legs in the armpits really well. And not a lot of people do that from open guard. Guys like Tynan Dalpra, guys like that still do that, but only a few really high level guys do this little thing of they get this burst of control basically by kicking you with both shins in the armpits, right? And I noticed this, I don't even know when I noticed this, a few months ago watching. And as I watched it more, because all I noticed was that I just noticed like, oh, they kick people in the armpits a lot. They're good. They're really good. They win from these positions. I assume that is making a difference. I assume that there's something there. And so then you start to like watch, and then you start to see it everywhere. And so I'll watch other matches where it's not Mika, and I'll see it and I'm like, oh man, I don't even know if this guy did it on purpose or if he just naturally knows like, hey, this is a way of keeping this person in my guard. This is a way of keeping this person from being able to back out. And you start to see it more and more. And then, to me, that becomes really simple, right? Because it wasn't somebody saying, hey, here is a technique, and then one little slice of the technique is them kicking the person in the armpits, right? I don't understand that mattered. But when I see it a lot in action, and then I can go, wow, it's simple. That's all they're doing. The guy's trying to back up, the guy's trying to posture, and just holding on to his lapels is not enough. I have to kick him with my shins in the armpits, and his posture breaks, and I create a really strong angle, and I can go back to attacking. And to me, when you get something like that is just so simple, and it's something that's like, then I can explain to my students, and then they can have it, and it's that simple. That is what that's where I'm at. That's where I'm always looking for. That's what I'm watching tape for. That's what I'm chasing in jiu-jitsu, I think, is finding the simplicity of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it made me think of this in your journey, Chad. I've never asked you this, and you, Josh, I want to hear both of you guys' take on this. And we've taken more than an hour of your life away, Josh, that you're never doing.
No worries.
But do you see it? Does it get easier because where you are in your level, the amount of jiu-jitsu that you've seen? I know Chad watches a ton of jiu-jitsu. I'm already feeling, and I know this first time I've met you, Josh, I'm assuming you've watched a bazillion and you still do. Does it get better from your level and your journey, like to see that stuff, to recognize that stuff,
to understand
it when you're watching it?
What do you mean better? Like, what do you?
As a white belt, I'm watching a match and I would never pick this up, the shins into the armpit. Maybe if someone pointed it out to me, but I wouldn't naturally be like, oh, I see how simple that is, because I don't know what I don't know. In your journey, to tell people out there that's listening, hey, your lower belt or whatever, as you keep going, this stuff's going to show up more simpler for you to pick up or recognize. Would you say that's true?
Yes. Absolutely. I would say that most people think about, like you see a lot of black belts as they get good, they start to fall into this idea that concept is what matters more than technique.
Yep.
But the problem is because they forget what it was like being a white belt. They don't realize that if I teach you the best concept in the world, but you have no context, you have no techniques to go, oh, that is true. Those 5 guard passes that I do, they all do have to do with chest over chest space. When I do this, it pins the guy on the floor. That matters, right? When I can teach something like that to somebody who's high level, they can pick it up. They go, holy cow, I know 50 things and they all have to do with that. He's right. I should tweak my mind to be like that. But when it's you and 2 passes, you're like, okay, dude, there are 500 passes out there. How do I know that you're telling me the truth?
Sure. I know what you mean. Yeah. No, that's it. That's Chad. Same thing. Would you?
Yeah. I think it's going to get a lot easier. I mean, it is going to help the more jiu-jitsu you watch, right?
Sure,
the more you're going to start noticing things too, right? Like he said, I mean, if you see that happen, was it an accident? Then it happens again. They're like, no, that wasn't an accident.
That is very true.
You just catch different things,
Okay.
Then you will find people that you like watching more than others, know?
Like
I used to, and I still go back and watch a lot of old Hoffa stuff. I used to love watching Hoffa Mendez pass the guard and make people look like fools. Right. And I mean, obviously we can't emulate that, but you can get little tweaks on things that he does. His footwork is so ridiculous.
His footwork and Gordon's footwork, if you watch, is actually very similar, even though it's half the speed with Gordon. Right. It makes you go, hey, I think Gordon picked up stuff from Hoffa, but his Hoffa's, I was like, we'll watch with, like I said, with my students, we'll watch certain things. One of my favorite things to watch about Hoffa is his footwork in a sense of him walking towards the hips. He does it in a way that sometimes it almost seems like for a second he has like a double under, but he's standing doing a Toreando pass, and he walks to the hips at times and then throws people's legs out of the way, walks back towards the hips the other way. He just does it in a way that is like, wow, his spatial awareness is what is killing this guy's hips. He's not even doing anything with his hands. You know what I mean? It's just him putting his feet in the right spots, and this dude is a whole second behind him.
Yeah. Watching highlight videos that you sent to me, Chad, like I'm just like blown
I sent him
away.
those ones from like when they did the Asian Open or the Hickson Cup. Yeah.
Those, and he would go like, he would be winning world titles every year, but he would only do like one tournament a year, and he would do it at, he would do some, like, I think a seminar tour or something, and then do these Asian Opens. And jiu-jitsu was less developed then than it is now. And it was brutal. He would just crush people.
Yeah. Watching those, I was just like, hey, this guy's like, on it. When Chad first introduced me who he was and showed me, he's like, watch him this. I was like, this guy real? Like, this is a superhero, right? Like,
he's like, figured out the cheat code. He did figure out the cheat code. I think. I mean, you got to put him in that GOAT conversation if we ever had one, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. I mean, especially when you look at how strong his division was when he was winning it. He took the division from the guy that people would have considered the GOAT if Hoffa hadn't existed.
For sure.
And so you look at that. Yeah, he's insanely good.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Well, a lot of good stuff, man. Very cool. Yeah. Can't thank you enough, Josh, for like hanging out with us. And
thank you guys for having me.
And teaching me some things. And like I said, man, love to be educated as much as I can in this community and meet new people and stuff like that. When we do this, tell everyone. I always put in the show notes. Tell everybody out there. Tell everyone how to get to you, man. Your show, everything. Tell us all. I'll have it all in the show notes so people can click on it and get to it. Go ahead.
My show is the isuckatjiujitsushow. To be honest, that's the best thing. That's what I put all my all of my mental energy into. My Instagram is pretty bland, but it's at the Josh McKinney. Maybe one day it won't be. I don't know. So maybe you can follow me, and maybe one day it'll be great. If you ever have a question for me, you could always send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. I do kind of like listener emails every Saturday on my podcast. And so I kind of answer emails about anything, questions about anything kind of jiu-jitsu related. Nice. And so, besides that, if you want to come train with me, HeadnodHQ, you can, people are always welcome to come train and fight to the death at Headnod. We're always happy to have you.
Awesome. Very, 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 very cool. Yeah. Appreciate it greatly, man. Appreciate you and everything that you're doing. Keep up the great work. Keep, feeding the community and paying it forward, passing the torch, so on and so forth. Chad, you got anything for Josh?
No, I told Terry, Josh, I was listening to your podcast with Mark Vivas, and you guys mentioned me. I'm like, we made it, Terry.
He dropped it, and I go, we had just been messaging, and I was like, oh, I got to give the shout out right there. Wait.
Right.
But the problem with Mark is this guy, he talks so many different things that I was like, man, if I don't catch this right now,
it's gone.
We were at a different place. So it's not like at my desk where I have a piece of paper and I could have brought out or like written, hey, give shout out. I was like, hey, we got to do it now, Mark.
That's awesome. Appreciate that.
Funny.
Man. All right, my brother. Well, thank you so much, man.
Yes,
God bless
sir.
you and your family and everything, man. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, guys.
All right, my man. We'll see you.
Thanks, bro.